Today, I am going to be talking about the brand new film, The Fabelmans. The Fabelmans have been out in select theaters for a while, but it finally came out widely shown on Wednesday, November 23rd. You see, The Fabelmans is actually a story based off of Steven Spielberg's life. It's sort of his autobiography. While this is an autobiography of Steven Spielberg's life and family, there will be liberties taken. Names will be changed, and life events will be compressed. This is a common practice for any movie that's based off of real life events, compressed into 2 hours. Before this movie came out, a lot of people were critiquing Steven Spielberg for making a movie about himself. I don't actually understand that critique. That's like getting upset with an author for writing an autobiography on their life. Now the movie starts off with a young Sam going to the movies with his parents. Sam in this case is the avatar for Steven Spielberg. And I know what you're thinking, uh-oh, a little boy being taken to the movies by his parents? Are they going to get shot? Well, rest assured, they do not get shot, and it doesn't become a Batman movie. Aww. Even though the movie does have Paul Dano. Paul Dano and Michelle Williams play his parents. Like I said, the names have been changed for this film. It's sort of an original story, but they do share the same story as Steven Spielberg. I do use this loosely because this is really just Steven Spielberg's idea of what happened in his life. Everything has been compressed. And it is a movie, so you have to make it somewhat fantastical. Yes, in the beginning, the dialogue is a little, oh golly gee, because Sam is afraid of going to the movies. It's new for them. Even though Sam knows what a TV is, they have a TV, but the concept of a movie scares him. So basically, this is where Bert explains to Sam that a movie is nothing but a series of pictures quickly moving by, hence motion picture. Thank you for explaining to the world what a movie is. And then you have Mitzi Fabelman explaining that movies are like a dream. But when you get to know Mitzi throughout the film, you kind of understand why she would say something like that. They take him into the movies to see Cecil B. DeMille's The Greatest Show on Earth. And it shows Sammy reacting to the movie because it's new to him. He's a little bit afraid. But they're showing a scene in The Greatest Show on Earth with a car getting hit by a train. I gotta admit, the movie looks pretty interesting. It kind of makes me want to check out the film. But that sparked something from Sam. Not to be a director, but to actually ask for a train set for Hanukkah. He asks for this because he wants to recreate the crash. And beyond that, we learn that he is a kid with anxiety. And when you have anxiety, you want to be able to control things. Of course, as a kid, you do this, but the parents don't want to buy a gift that's going to be broken all the time. So that's when the mother suggests using his father's camera to film this so he can relive the scene. This film isn't just about Steve and Sam growing up to get into film. We actually get to learn a lot about his life. Paul Dano and Michelle Williams play excellent parents to this kid. Gabriel LaBelle plays Sam. Well, not in the beginning of the movie, it's a younger kid, but our main protagonist is played by Gabriel LaBelle. Seth Rogen is in the film. He plays the father's best friend, Benny. And as we continue this, we wonder, why is the father's best friend always traveling with the family as they move from different locations? Yes, it's explained in the film that Benny works along with the father because they're both engineers. But there's actually more to it, we find out in the film. We get to see great techniques that Sammy picks up on as he gets older. We see how he uses his enjoyment of film to lead his friends to make films. He comes up with creative ideas that I actually really loved. And it's amazing because he's literally almost broke. Sure, his father is well-to-do, but he's still a child. He's still broke, but he makes great things with next to nothing budget. And honestly, I've actually been a proponent of the idea that less is more. Meaning that when you're working on crumbs, you have to become creative to make something bigger. I get this because if you look at my YouTube channel, you can see how green I was in the beginning, and I still think I'm growing from this. But this movie speaks to me because we get to see how much Sammy adapts to life and how he becomes more creative and how he gets to lead others. We see the connection between Bert and Mitzi and Benny. We are introduced to other characters in the film, like Mitzi's uncle, who gives advice about taking control to young Sammy. Mitzi's uncle is played by Judd Hirsch. I love Judd Hirsch. I really do. I enjoy seeing him be a parent to someone always giving advice in movies. Quite honestly, I don't really understand his need to be in the film, but Judd Hirsch's character might have been an actual character in Steven Spielberg's life, but the way they put him in a film to come in and go within a night, and the fact that he's only in the film for probably about 5 minutes, 10 at the most, and I'm really being generous with that because in film, 5 minutes itself is way long. Because I feel like the advice he does give to Sammy is almost similar to what other creative types in the film have been already giving him. And the way he is entered and introduced into the film, I'll leave that for the spoiler, but it just seems very incidental. My only concern about the film is that, like most biography films, when you think it's going to end, it just keeps going and you're just not really sure where they're taking with this. I didn't know what to expect going to the film because I didn't know what time frame we're having for this young character. We don't know if he's gonna just stop after high school or if he's gonna continue and they're gonna show him working on Jaws. But I'll tell you, it just goes into his early college years. There is so much more I want to tell you about this film, but I'm afraid this is where we start getting to the spoiler territory. So if you have seen the movie, or you just don't care about spoilers, stick around. But if you have not seen the movie, then I am gonna ask you to skip to about here. Now that our friends are out of the way, let's go ahead and spoil this movie a little bit. Sammy's family is an interesting family because his father is the engineer type, always wanting his son to use the right side of his brain, always to improve his grades through math and science. But his mother is a pianist and she uses the left side of her brain. She is the creative type. She's the one that influences Sammy to make film. We learn through this film that Bert Fabelman looks at his son's creativity as a mere hobby. And from this, we begin to think, what must he think about his wife's piano playing? She is a pianist, but he doesn't really show much attention to it as more as just a fun thing for his wife to do. She is the creative type, like I mentioned, but she does kind of seem like she has a bit of a mental instability, perhaps suffering from heavy depression, because she is fine when she's with the family and she's with everyone, including Benny, but she begins to break down every time there's a tragedy. When her mother passes away, she begins thinking that she can still hear her mother. She receives a phone call from her mother warning her to not answer the door. A stranger is going to show up. We hear the phone ring. She answers the phone and she responds to it, but we're not really sure if it really happened. We're not even sure the phone actually rang in the middle of the night. Bert wakes up to his wife talking on a phone, but that's when he responds, is by him waking up. So the phone may not have ever rung. It might have just been something in Mitzi's mind. And that's when they introduce Judd Hirsch's character, the one that Mitzi's mother is warning her not to answer the door for. That's a plot that is picked up and then dropped. And that's why I say it wasn't really necessary to have him in film, because I think the warning is her son wants to get into film and discover secrets, and he does discover some secrets. We see a bit of a mental breakdown from Mitzi as they're on a camping trip and she's just dancing to nothing. Her nightgown is see-through in the car spotlights as she's dancing and everyone's concerned, and we learn as young Sam Fabelman is looking at his footage, he begins to see that there's a closer relationship between Benny and Mitzi. That explains why she was upset about Benny not coming with them when they were moving, and the first time they move, she does convince Bert to take Benny along. That also explains why there's other moments where she sees sees the tornado in the neighborhood with her kids, and she decides to bring them into the car and drive to the tornado because she wants to really grab life by the horns, where her husband is not that way. Benny is, though. And we begin to wonder if Seth Rogen's Benny might have been one of the kids' father. But according to Mitzi, nothing like that ever happened. It was just love without anything beyond that. But the way that Benny buys a new camera towards the end for Sammy, you begin to wonder, is that actually his father?
You stop making movies, it'll break your mother's heart.
Or just a really nice uncle figure. The film shows us his creative side as a kid when he's making these cowboy movies or army films, for the Boy Scouts. And I really loved the technique he had when he was filming a cowboy movie by making gun flashes on the screen. And this technique is so simple that I'm envious. This is what I meant about having very little but making a lot from it. In order to create the gun flash effect, he poked holes into the film strip where the guns were, so the light would shine through like there were gunshot flashes. We see him making an army movie, which may be a bit of a precursor to Saving Private Ryan. The way he directs his actor, I guess who's playing the sergeant, he's coaching him, directing this young actor, to really feel emotion for his fallen soldiers. And he's like breaking it down for him to the point where they actually get the shot very right. Even after calling cut, the actor is still walking in despair. It jumps ahead to him going to high school, a new high school, because his family moved once again, because the father keeps finding new work. This high school in particular, he is singled out because he's Jewish. And at that time, anti-Semitism was more prevalent, sadly, more obvious at least. There's one bully who is outwardly anti-Semitic, and then there's another bully who is the popular jock, who isn't exactly saying anti-Semitic things, but he's also enabling the bullying. This is another pivotal part of the movie where Sammy is introduced to this Christian girl who is trying to convert him to being Christian. As we see, she sort of fetishizes Jesus. But in her way, she is creative because she's the one that's pushing Sammy to film more. She is pushing him to use her father's filming equipment and editing equipment to actually film the students' senior ditch day. If you're not familiar, this is sort of a high school tradition where many high schools sort of turn the other way while seniors ditch school that day. I did it myself. I went to Six Flags back in Colorado, but their senior ditch day is them going to the beach and Sammy recording the whole entire thing. And he really does a remarkable job editing. And you gotta remember, this is the old days of editing where you're literally cutting and pasting and there's editing clips on the floor. Nowadays, it's easy because we have computers that do it for us. Here's the editing process of this video. People like myself have it way too easy today. And when this video is shown at prom, it actually shows the true spirit of the students. It shows their true emotion, and even shows the jock bully, the popular guy, as kind of the hero of the film. Everyone's applauding him. He's treated like a god. And when the jock is confronting Sammy in the hallway about it, like, he keeps shouting, "Why? Why do you have to make me look like some kind of god? Why did you have to make me look so perfect?" That really speaks to the bully's character because, well, as we know, when you bully someone, you're really just projecting yourself onto others. That moment actually breaks down the barrier between the popular jock and Sammy. And as Sammy explains to him, the camera captures what it sees. Basically, the camera is the truth teller. It doesn't discriminate a person's personality. That's where the editing comes in. But the camera itself, the camera is kind of the truth teller. They don't become friends, but now they understand each other. And the jock actually tells Sammy to don't tell anyone about that whole entire moment. And this is where it kind of gets a little tongue-in-cheek for me, is when Sammy says, "I won't tell anyone unless someday I make a movie about it." It's like, come on, on. Why you have to be meta? Despite the fact that Mitzi tried to make it work, she tried bringing happiness and joy into the new home with her husband, Bert, and the family, even buying a monkey. She still sinks into a depression because Benny's not around. And this leads eventually to the parents divorcing and Mitzi moving back to Arizona to be with Benny. He does get to meet his hero, John Ford. And I should have known it was going to be John Ford because they put him in a room with all these cowboy movie posters, including Stagecoach. And I knew this right away not because I'm trying to be a braggart about my education or anything, because I did study film, but studying film means we had to watch a lot of movies, and Stagecoach was shown many times in my college career. And John Ford is actually played by David Lynch. I thought that was hilarious. And the exchange between him and Sammy is hilarious because there's just a lot of cussing, but they talk about pictures and what Sam sees in the pictures, discussing horizons, asking him in that picture, where is the horizon? In the back. Okay. In another picture, he asks, where's the horizon this time? In the front. And he talks about that the horizon is never in the middle because then that would make the movie boring. Which leads to the ending as he's leaving. He's walking on the studio lot, and it is supposed to be like this perfect walk-away scene, kind of like we see on the cover. But then at the very end, the camera abruptly tilts upward towards the horizon. It reframes itself. And I really liked that touch. Basically, the perfect sum up of the whole entire film. In real life, Steven Spielberg had some other inspirations, but again, we're condensing the story of Steven Spielberg to fit into a 2-hour narrative. I think we're good here. I think we should just go ahead and bring in our non-spoiler friends. What do you say? The music is queued up, so let's bring them in now. Hey, welcome back. We're wrapping up the film here. There have been people who complain about the film being a bit of an ego stroke for Steven Spielberg, but in all honesty, Steven Spielberg was very uncomfortable telling the story. He didn't want to talk about his family. He was actually convinced to do this film thanks to his co-writing friend, Tony Kushner, because after Steven Spielberg told him about his life story, that's when Tony Kushner convinced him he should tell this on screen. I say this is a great film if you are the creative type. If you've ever been inspired to make film, this is a great film because I'm always enjoying movies that are fictional, but we get to see how the process is made. That's why I like Tim Burton's Ed Wood, or even Kevin Smith's Clerks 3. If you've ever had parents that either supported you or were just pushing against what you wanted to do, this film is also for you. Because you don't have to want to be in film to understand a parent that'll try to push you one way. This can translate to any career field. Everyone does a splendid job in this film, even if there are parts that I think could have been omitted, like the Judd Hirsch character. Also, Steven Spielberg managed to include all the siblings in this film, but they weren't really that focused on, so I think we could have broken them down into one additional sibling. You know, that's his choice. Sometimes when you make an autobiography that is using other names and changing events, you have to decide how close to your real life you want to be. I'm going to say this movie is an 8 out of 10. Even if you may not like that Steven Spielberg is talking about himself, you're going to like the film as a film. It's an 8 out of 10, closer to a 7 than a 9, but 8 out of 10. If you have the time, go see the movie, really. You'll love that you saw the movie. Steven Spielberg will love that you saw the movie. Steven Spielberg's Bills will love that you saw the movie. So please check it out. I do highly recommend it. I'm Anthonix Maximus. This is Anthonix Maximus Matinee. Please check out my YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.
What was your favorite part?